What's going on, everybody? Welcome in. It's the Wager Alarm Friday Night Ticket. That's right, baby. It's the live stream. I'm your host, Howard Bender. With me here, Craig Mish, talking all sorts of picks for the Golden Nugget Ultimate Football Challenge, the Westgate Super Contest. Craig, been sitting and stewing all week long. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that we got a good bounce back week ahead of us. Feeling pretty good about this. I know that at this stage of the game, especially in college football, there are some teams right now that are really starting to show themselves winning and going on streaks and losing as well. We did see, I thought, some pretty big surprises last week, including Oklahoma going down to Kansas State. That was one of the bigger ones. May have cost them a chance of playing in the college football playoff. But we do have one huge game in college tomorrow, which is actually going to be one of our picks. First time all season long that I'll actually take a team that I liked in this thing.
I was stunned.
Only time all year.
This game. Stunned.
Hey, once a year I'm going to do it, and of course we'll be rooting for Florida tomorrow. But I really do think the Gators have a chance to win this tomorrow. So that will be one of the picks, of course. On Tuesday, Dan Servideo and I did the live stream. We took a look at some of the lines, and really, in going and taking a look at the Golden Nugget lines and looking at the Super Contest lines for the first week in a while, unlike maybe the first 8 or 9 weeks that we've done this, what I like to do, take people behind the curtain a little bit, is regardless of what picks we choose, the other thing that I'll do is I'll take a look at the lines when they came out on Wednesday, and then I'll look at the lines right before we go on this live stream just to make sure there's no serious deviation. Now, for people who have been following us all season long, they know that we submit our Golden Nugget picks, the contest for the Golden Nugget, earlier in the day. They have to be early and on Friday, so we've already made those selections, but I still will, as soon as right before we get on air, take a look and see if anything is shifted so we can at least give our opinions on that. If I notice that something is off by usually 1.5 to 2 points, then I have to take a second look at what's going on in that game. Is there weather involved? Is there something else that I'm potentially missing? And the same goes for the NFL. I will say this, not a lot of line changes this week. Surprisingly, even with a quarterback change with one team that everybody knows, of course, in the NFL this week, in the Denver Broncos, not much of changing around. A point here, a point there. Right. But we've dealt with some very significant line changes last week. One of the things that we talked about, and as it turns out, we would have won that game, but it was just a question for me, is I couldn't figure out why the Falcons went from minus or plus 3.5 to plus 6.5, as Seattle was minus 3.5, and they went to minus 6.5. And I remember talking to you on the phone saying, hey, there's got to be no way Matt Ryan's playing this. Vegas isn't stupid. They're not going to move this line up 3. In the contest, which was the most picked game in the contest because of that line, that ended up being a consensus winner. I can tell you that this week there isn't really anything significant. The only thing that you and I were talking about was the idea that maybe on Saturday night we hear something about Patrick Mahomes playing, and that would significantly shift that line. Of course, Kansas City would be a much bigger favorite over Minnesota, probably 2 or 3 more points. But for the most part this week, Howard, college and pro, they're a new quarterback is in there for NC State, their third quarterback. There's some questions with Wake Forest as quarterback, back and forth. I've been just kind of following this all season long. And the other thing that's going to happen is over the next couple of weeks, some kids are going to stop playing in college football. They're just going to they're going to be done when they know that they're getting close to being drafted, and we'll see that in the bowl games as well. So I'm ready to kind of fire it off. Hope for a good bounce back week. We've been doing this 9 weeks, I believe. We've had 2 losing weeks. So one last week. So hopefully we can turn it around this week.
There you go. We're still above 500. It's all we can ask for at this point right now.
Yeah. Hopefully we get to 55, 60% by the end of the season. And it's very important for me to say here on the Wager Alarm live stream, and for everybody else who's watched us all season long, anybody can do picks. Anybody can come on the air and give picks. And certainly there will be companies and there will be people who will finish ahead of us in the standings. We have our own money involved in these contests. So for those of you who think that we are just randomly saying, I would take this and I would take that and give me this and give me that, that's not the case. We are trying to win money here.
We definitely are. So let's get to it right now. Let's start with the Golden Nugget. College picks immediately. Yep. I mean, first one here, and this was my question of whether or not we go back to this well, because it kind of burnt. It burned. Listen, it burned us last week. I mean, listen, we were riding high because we went multiple weeks targeting against Rutgers, and it really, I mean, it just totally blew up in our face. last week. And that was, I'm sure it blew up in a number of people's faces. This was not a game that we really thought we were in any kind of danger. So, but going back to this one here now, they're in Illinois. So they're on the road. Mm-hmm. They're still atrocious.
Yeah, they got their win last week. And remember what I said on last week's live stream is that the danger zone for doing something like this was Liberty's defense just didn't show up in this game at all. And that completely opened it. I knew right away. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to end up being a bad pick because Rutgers could do no wrong. You take Rutgers stats from that game last week against Liberty. That's probably, if you combine all of the other games of the season, it wouldn't even equal that game. So Liberty's defense didn't show up. Illinois, on the other hand, has been good. They beat Wisconsin 2 weeks ago, 24-23. They went to Purdue, not a great team, but they went to Purdue and beat them by 18. So they're definitely on the upswing at this point. And they also have a win against Connecticut and against Akron. And you may say, Craig, why is that a big deal? Who cares? Those are bad teams. I get it. But guess what Illinois has a chance to do? Illinois has a chance to go to a bowl game. That is a really big deal for this school. They haven't been there in a while. They are going to look to beat Rutgers and beat them handily. Lovie Smith seems to be maybe turning a quarter with them. If they can get to 6 wins, they would call this guy a hero. This is one that they have to win this week, and I know the line is obviously big. They beat Rutgers last year by 21, 38-17 last season. So we're going to take Illinois again to smash Rutgers in the mouth.
Yes, we are. I'm very happy to do it. Very happy to do it. Next game was actually one that I really liked, and this was UCLA against Colorado. It's not that I'm some big UCLA fan, but listen, UCLA has definitely turned a corner since losing to, Oregon State.
They lost a lot of games.
Well, yeah, I'm just talking about, the recent surge that they're on, though, right now. Better, they beat Stanford. Now, granted, Stanford was banged up.
They're a down team.
They came back. They beat Stanford. Then they came back, really had Arizona State, really struggling. I mean, it was like 42-10 at one point in that game. And while, yes, they led up towards the end and Arizona got back, Arizona State made the score look a little respectable, it was still a nice big win for UCLA. Going up against Colorado this week. Colorado, not a good team. You look at Steve Montez, their quarterback, and here it is for me. At home, 10 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. On the road, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. His numbers on the road look atrocious. They're playing this game in UCLA. I like this one here. It's a 6.5 point spread that we're laying. So we're laying 6.5. It's less than a touchdown. I kind of felt like this was a good spot for UCLA.
Yeah, Colorado is kind of they started off the season surprising people. They started off the season 3-1. They had great wins against Nebraska and Arizona State. Since then, they have the longest losing streak in the Pac-12. They lost to Arizona 35-31. They lost by 42 to Oregon. They lost by 30-31 to Washington State. They played well last week against USC. Of course, USC is playing with their third-string quarterback at this point. A lot of points are going to be scored in this game, Howard. This is the highest total on the board at 71, and the reason for that is that, as you're right, 65. But UCLA does seem to have at least things going in the right direction offensively. There's a lot of pressure at this point on Chip Kelly to win some games. He does not have a good record coaching this team until the last couple of weeks. So UCLA, all they need to do is win by a touchdown. I'll tell you at the half, we're probably not going to know the end story with this one. It's going to be a very high-scoring game, I would expect. But I do think that UCLA is able to come out on top. And again, it's a trend right now. Colorado's losing every game. They did cover last week against USC, but they're completely falling apart. And those wins that they got in the early season look like a little bit of a smokescreen for their year.
Well, yeah, that 3-1, weren't they 3-0 when we took Air Force against Colorado?
I may have, let me check. Just
take a look at that. That was Air Force against Colorado. I think they were a 3-0 team at
30-20, 2-0, and they lost 30-23. They actually came back and beat Arizona State somehow. They've been a really strange team. But yeah, last week USC was down to Colorado. They came back and scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. I actually fell asleep at the end of that game, to be honest with you. But I remember watching that game, falling asleep. But so we'll take them this week. Colorado and Colorado State having a tough time this year.
No doubt about it. So there you go. UCLA minus 6.5. Next game, this one's yours, baby. Again, stunned that you're going for this one here. Florida, 6.5. Yeah. You're getting 6.5 here. against the Georgia Bulldogs. Talk to me.
Yeah, well, look, Florida has been either an underdog or basically doubted in a number of games this year. They were doubted in the game against Auburn, and they came up big in that game, of course, at home and won. They were doubted in a big way at LSU, and although LSU did cover with a late touchdown, they went toe-to-toe with the Tigers, and there are some people that feel that LSU is the number one team. They are the number one team in the country, but some people feel like they are better than Clemson, and they are better than Alabama. So I expect a low-scoring game here. Florida's defense is basically ranked near the top in every single statistical category, and they're at the top of the SEC. I would expect a close game and one that could come literally down to the final snap. Even though Swift is a good running back for Georgia, and Florida in the past, they struggled against Nick Chubb and Sony Michel a couple of years ago, I think that their defense comes to play here in this one. They're also getting back two key players, one on offense, one on defense. And remember, and for people who don't follow it like me as closely as they do, Howard, this game is not in Georgia. This is a neutral site game.
Right, it's in Jacksonville, right?
Right. So I think the line is too high here. I would have projected it to be about 3.5 or 4. We're getting almost a touchdown. I think Florida has a good chance to win this game on Saturday.
All right, beautiful. Again, I put that one in your hands. You just you're the Florida guy.
Go Gators!
You are the Gator whisperer, as we say.
I would not say that, but although we'll say this: if you remember,
we say that?
A few weeks ago, remember when I think we were going to take Florida against Kentucky, and I'm like, no, we're not.
Yes,
right.
That's right.
And then Kentucky almost beat Florida in that game. So listen, when they're playing a lesser opponent and they're 3 touchdown favorites, it's just not something I want to do, especially with a not great offensive team. But their defense can go toe to toe with anyone. If they win this game, they'll play in the SEC championship. I'm not going to be delusional and think that they're going to beat Alabama or LSU. They'll probably be 2 touchdown underdogs again. I don't think that I would take them in that spot. But a neutral site spot with just as many Gator fans as Georgia fans, with a potential playoff on the line here. I don't think 3 teams from the SEC will get in, but it's not impossible based on Oklahoma's loss was a killer for them. I mean, to lose the way they did to Kansas State, I think they're out of the playoff picture. So Notre Dame lost to Michigan. They're out of the playoff picture too. The winner of Florida-Georgia plays in the SEC against LSU or Alabama. If they win this game, whoever, let's say Georgia beats Florida this game, and Georgia beats LSU or Alabama in the SEC championship, they're getting in the Final Four, and they're getting in the college football playoff. So this game is a monster this week.
All right, beautiful. I'm in.
By the way, are we? I know we're doing this for the contest, but regardless, if we pick it for the contest next week, the Alabama-LSU game is probably one of the biggest games in college in the last 10 years during the regular season. I think we should probably do that game, even if we don't pick it in the contest. It'll be the most watched college football game all season next week.
I'm game.
Yeah, we got to do it.
I'm game. Beats taking Liberty against Rutgers. How about that? Now, if you want to talk about Louisiana Lafayette, different story.
Different story.
Fourth college game we're looking at here, Oklahoma State -3 over TCU, who burned us the week before.
They did. TCU beat Texas. Yep. Texas really seems to be sliding a little bit. Oklahoma State is on a little bit of a surge. They always play very well in Stillwater. They give up some points. They'll probably give up some points here to TCU, but I just don't see the same result that happening with TCU this week like it did last week. Right now, I think the Cowboys are in a pretty good spot. You can get some 2.5. I think I see some 3 on some other places, but a huge win last week to put Oklahoma State back into a big bowl game picture. Everyone kind of left them off for dead. They were on the road last week at Iowa State, a ranked team, and they won. They won 34-27. If they can beat TCU here, it does set them up to be back in the top 25. And again, I don't think that you want to be delusional and say that OSU has a chance to win the championship or anything like that, but I do think that there's a nice opportunity for them to potentially win this game. Our friend is playing in this one, Chuba Hubbard, 22 carries, 116 yards and a touchdown last week. I think he runs wild this week against TCU. He did it last week against Iowa State. Really good defense. I think that Oklahoma State wins, and I think they win by more than 3.
All right, beautiful. So there you go. Those are our 4 college games. It's Illinois -20.5. UCLA minus 6.5 over Colorado. Florida, we're getting the 6.5 points over Georgia, and Oklahoma State, we're laying 3 to TCU.
One other thing is in looking at the spreads, college and pro football, there's a huge distinction for me when it comes to making some of these picks. In college football, I don't really look at, do we have favorites? Do we have underdogs? I don't really look at it that way because, again, you have teams at this stage of the season that players are studying. Some of them are, they have to get ready for their finals. Like, we're coming to the end of the year for this. So I don't mind taking favorites. I don't even mind taking big favorites. The NFL is a different story, and this trend just keeps smashing everybody in the face every week. These road dogs are coming in like I've never seen before. I think it's closing in on like 65% for the season. That's just incredible that all the teams that are getting points on the road are covering, and even underdogs for the most part all season are covering. We saw it again on Thursday night. We saw it again on Monday night. I mean, two bad teams, the Dolphins and Arizona. Well, Arizona's maybe not as bad, but Arizona ended up covering that game as well, getting the touchdown, the 2-point conversion. So when we're doing these NFL, in the back of my mind, if we come through these picks and we don't have any dogs, then I kind of have to adjust my thinking, and I know it's not the right.
Yes, I know, because I'm a part of the discussion with you, and you're like, "How many favorites?" Well, no, we can't.
Well, I mean, people who are listening, they don't know that. Are they listening on the? Are we doing a live conversation on our live stream? Hello, Howard. Hello.
I'm broadcasting it all. I do that on my phone. I just let everybody know.
No wonder everyone had our picks early last week.
Boom. All right, let's talk about our pro picks. NFL picks. We're going 3 games here. First game. I'm in on this one here. I'm talking about the Bears. We're getting 5 points. It's against the Eagles. I have been marking this game. Listen, last week, the Bears, they finally started handing the ball off to David Montgomery, and he crushed it. Now, they lost the game. They lost by 1, but it was the touches for Montgomery that I was honed in on for the fantasy aspect and the daily fantasy aspect. But I've been looking at and marking Matt Nagy's tendencies last year, this year, what he's doing as far as the ground game, how many carries he's dishing out versus what type of defense that he's focused in on. Okay, I hit with David Montgomery last week. I look at this matchup here, and the Eagles, all they do is stop the run. They've stopped the run beautifully. They can't cover in the secondary.
Yeah,
it's absolutely atrocious. Yeah. It's one of the worst. And this is one of those games where Mitch Trubisky needs the confidence booster, and Matt Nagy hands it to him every single time. Once he starts tasting a little bit of success in the passing game, Nagy pounds that. Trubisky ends up with like 300 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns, and all of a sudden everybody's back in on Trubisky, that he's like the greatest thing the greatest thing since sliced bread. So for me, I look at this game the way it's marked up. I like the Bears. I'm not an Eagles fan. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction, a big spread after they beat Buffalo. And let's face it, Buffalo's offense really not that strong. So going up against a team where they can't run, which is Josh Allen's specialty, which is what Frank Gore and Devin Singletary are used so heavily for, I don't want to overreact to the Eagles win here. I think the Bears cover this spread. I think the Bears could even win this one outright.
All right. Well, you can't get 5 anymore. It's 4.5. So that certainly is a sign that some of the money is coming in on Chicago. The total is 42. So you would expect a low-scoring game. And look, the Bears are really at DEFCON 5 at this point, I think. You talk about backs against the wall. I mean, everything is up against the wall with them. They're 3-4 on the season. And unfortunately, this is one of the teams at the beginning of the year that I thought would be pretty good against the spread, and it hasn't, kind of played itself out that way. Philly, who was left for dead after that Dallas game a couple of weeks ago, came back and had that big win against Buffalo. So you're right. If they had beat Buffalo by 3, 4, the Eagles are basically a 3-point favorite in this one, but because of the way they looked and also a reaction to the way the Bears look, there's no question that this line's a little bit higher than it should be.
So I'm enjoying that. I definitely enjoy that. Next game we're looking at here, Raiders -2 over the Lions. I was kind of hesitant. I'm not going to lie. I was definitely kind of hesitant. Josh Jacobs, I love Josh Jacobs, but it's the firepower for Detroit that really just kind of makes me nervous because the Oakland secondary is trashier than actually Philly's secondary. So, they traded away Gary Conley, who wasn't good, but his backup obviously didn't make the cut at the start of the season for a particular reason, because he's not good. So I was a little nervous about that from the Detroit side. Talk to me why we're taking the Raiders and we're laying 2.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the total is 50.5. And so the expectation, Howard, isn't just that Detroit is going to score, or it would be 40.5. So that means that what Vegas is telling you, that the Raiders are going to score 21 points in this game, at least. The other part of this is that the Raiders in the last 2 weeks have played very well. They played great against Houston. I think that you're catching a good line here. If you remember the end of that game against the Houston and Oakland, Deshaun Watson was running back, got kicked in the face by a Raiders player. That's where his eye got hit, and he threw it right up in the air, and Fells caught that touchdown at the end of the game. Otherwise, the Raiders win. They dominated that game from start to finish. They're also coming off a swing where they played 5 road games in a row, including 1 game in London. And I think of all the teams that are kind of laying in the weeds a little bit in the AFC, I do think it's Oakland. Tyrell Williams has scored a number of touchdowns.
Yeah.
And I think that Detroit going into last week was a little bit of a different situation than it was this week. What was it last week? You really didn't know what kind of production you were going to get out of the running backs. So the defense had to at least protect that idea. Detroit's not running the ball, man. Like, those 2 guys are not going to be able to run the ball for the Lions. So I think that the Raiders should have a pretty good game plan here, which is playing a lot of nickel and dime and just not letting those wide receivers beat you. Let Ty Johnson run 15 times. Let Drake Carson run 20 times. I don't think that they're talented. I don't like either of those running backs there. I think that this is close. It comes right down to the end. And I do think that Oakland's on a really good swing at this point. It wouldn't shock me at the end of the year to see the Raiders 9-7 or 8-8. I'm impressed with what I've seen.
Well, definitely wouldn't surprise me either. Definitely a dark horse team. Everybody was laughing at what Gruden was doing. All of a sudden, it's like, ooh.
Looks really good. It's a shame they don't have Antonio Brown. If they had him, I think they'd be a lot better. They just, kind of like the Colts when you have David Carr, you really don't have, you can't put teams away. It's just really hard to do because there's, he's not going to blow up. He did throw 3 touchdown passes last week, but a lot of that was done by the
Derek
receiver.
Carr.
Derek Carr, sorry. A lot of that was done by the receivers, and I think having Tyrell Williams back is a really big deal for them as well. It looks like a different team having him on the outside. So I think Detroit, to me, every year they get to a point where they just start sliding right before Thanksgiving, and that slide just continues toward the end of the year. And I'm just not a believer in them. I'm not.
They got no ground game, nothing is safe or anything. Yeah, I'm with you. I like it.
Look, they could throw their listen. This game, if it's 38-31, I mean, look, that's going to happen, but. I do like what I'm seeing from Oakland, and again, if this was 3.5, 4 points, I may not do it. I may go the other side in this one, but you're not really having to lay anything. You're just looking for Oakland to win the game. And by the way, on Oakland's side, the kicker's good too, Carlson. So it comes down to the end. They need a big kick, 50 yards. I think you could do it.
Final game we're looking at here for the Golden Nugget contest. We're doing the Monday night action.
Yes.
Craig, you've said it before. The home team on Monday night. The home dog.
You got to do it.
Covers.
Yeah, you got to do it. Look, it's not always good. Was New England at the Jets 2 Monday nights ago, or was that at New England? I forget. That was at New England when they were.
No, it was in New York.
It was in New York. Okay, so 2 weeks ago that didn't work. Last week, of course, this past Monday it did. From a historical point of view, there are just some times where you have to blindly look at games and take what the trend has been for the last 25 years. Which is the home dog on Monday night is a winner. It just is. It didn't happen with the Jets. It may not happen with the Giants on Monday night either, but there are some trends that you just don't want to ignore. That's one of them. Also in college football, when you have 2 competitive teams and the Thursday night dog is getting points, the home dog, that's always a good spot too. So I do like the spot for the Giants. They backdoored. Was it Detroit last week? Who did they backdoor? The Giants.
Yeah, Detroit.
Yeah, they backdoored Detroit last week. I could see the same exact thing with Dallas happening this week. Look, Dallas is not blowing any teams out. We've seen that. They're more or less a running team. They do have a good defense, but Jones is, showed some confidence last week. He looked pretty good. Slayton can stretch the field a little bit, and Barkley seems to be back. I would like to see them use Ingram a little bit more over the middle. I don't know what really happened with him, but that was a big part of their offense that's kind of gone away.
He's been banged up. He's been dealing with a knee issue, and while he's been playing for the most part, he still hasn't been at 100%. I like what when we talk about the Giants here, getting Sterling Shepard back, adding Golden Tate as a guy who can just move the chains. Saquon Barkley, best in the business. And I agree with you. I love Slayton. I really do like Slayton as far as a guy who can stretch the field. Listen, and I'm not totally sold on Dallas. Dallas, yeah, did they annihilate the Eagles last week? Yeah, okay. Still the Eagles. They still have their struggles on defense. You're talking about a Dallas team that lost, 3 straight, one of which to the Jets. So,
and look, Dallas could win the game. It's just that 7 points seems to be a lot. The other thing that NFL players will tell you, and this is part of that narrative on not so much for Thursday night and Sunday night, but for Monday night, is that you're going to get the very best effort from players who play on Monday night almost every single time. Those players end up watching some of Sunday's games. They do seem to be more pumped up. You get a top effort usually from those teams. Now, the Jets gave nothing to us 2 weeks ago. That is true. But look at the way the Dolphins played against Pittsburgh on Monday night.
Yeah, no, I know. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, Craig. Doesn't mean it doesn't
Monday
hurt.
Night dog of 7 points. I just have to blindly take the points.
That's what we're going to do.
I just have to do it. And by the way, against a team that's still trying, I know that there are a lot of teams that are not, like Cincinnati and Miami and the Jets and Atlanta. Like if it was one of those teams, Howard getting the 7, I may just not mess with it. But look, this and Thursday night, Arizona showed that giving so many points is not a good idea when you're on the road. It's just not. So, and this is a lot. 7's a lot.
All right. Well, so there you go. Illinois minus 20.5, UCLA minus 6.5, Florida plus 6.5, Oklahoma State minus 3. And then we wrap it up with the Bears plus 5, Raiders minus 2, Giants plus 7. Lock it in, baby. Those are our Golden Nugget picks for week 9 of the NFL season, week 10, technically, of the college football season. But it's week 9 of the contest, and there we have it. Now, super contest here.
Okay.
Before we get to that, just a shout out to Monkey Knife Fight, our sponsor here at the live stream. You guys like prop picks? There you go. Monkey Knife Fight. Go to fantasyalarm.com/monkey. Get yourself in there. You get a free subscription you get like a free 6 months to the Fantasy Alarm playbook. If you sign up over at Monkey Knife Fight, go to fantasyalarm.com/monkey and get your rewards. Westgate Super Contest. Now, we are 100% pulling over 2 picks from the Golden Nugget.
Yes.
Both have different lines, though, slightly different lines.
Yep.
The Bears are getting 4.5 instead of 5.
Which is the line right now.
Okay. And then the Raiders were giving 2.5 instead of just 2.
And I don't think that factors in at all.
I agree. The other game now that we're definitely taking here, and I'm big on this, it's the Vikings. Plus 2.5 going into Kansas City. I know Arrowhead's a tough place to play. It hasn't been lately. And when you're talking about the fact that Patrick Mahomes is not going to be playing this game, the backfield, they don't know what they're doing. Minnesota's defense is rock solid. It's Matt Moore under center. I mean, the only reason that the line is like this, I think, is because there was a chance, or because some people thought that there was a chance that Mahomes was going to play. But based on everything that I've seen with Minnesota and how they've played, I find it very hard to believe that they are this kind of an underdog, even though it's on the road, given that Matt Moore is under center. I like the Vikings getting 2.5 points here. Please, Dalvin Cook alone is going to score 21.
Yeah, as long as Mahomes doesn't play, we're good. If he doesn't, then obviously this will be one that we look back and go, oh no, because then we still may win, but there's a chance that the line would be bad at that point. Look, Kansas City threw the kitchen sink at Green Bay and did a great job offensively, I thought, against them. Damian Williams, I feel like, will be more a part of their offense again, which is a smart way to go. But everything that I would say here, Howard, it doesn't matter because their defense is so bad. It just is. They can't stop anybody. And especially the linebacking core for Kansas City. Once upon a time, man, they had Derek Johnson and they had all these great linebackers. They can't stop anybody over the middle. They can't stop running. I mean, Aaron Jones, what a great game plan Green Bay had.
Yeah.
And I hate to throw any player in the NFL under the bus, and that's absolutely not what I want to do. But there is a linebacker on Kansas City. This guy's name is Neiman. And just search on Google or search on Twitter, you will see, oh my gosh, they targeted this poor kid over and over and over again. Whenever he was in the game, he was covering the running back, they throw it to Aaron Jones. Williams came in the game, Rodgers threw to Williams in the back of the end zone. And look, I totally respect kids trying to make a living, and you hate to say a player's bad or whatever, but man, their linebacking core is weak, and their backup linebacking core is even weaker. And if I am Minnesota, I am just attacking that, and I'm lining Dalvin Cook behind center, and I'm rolling him out, and I'm throwing him the ball like they did Aaron Jones. They don't have anybody that can cover the running back. I don't think this game will be close. If Mahomes doesn't play, if he plays, I will be throwing something. But
he's not playing. He's not playing. I'm telling you, he's not.
As long as he doesn't play, I'm good. If he plays, throwing something.
All right. Well, not my direction. So anyway, all right. So Bears, Raiders, Vikings. Now the question is
okay.
We've got 3 games that we're going to talk about here.
Right.
We're picking 2 of them.
Yes.
All right. Now this is the first time we've actually come into the live stream without a set of picks.
Oh well, sometimes we've gone over the 5th one, but never over 3.
Yeah, but not like this. Not like this.
Well, let's be transparent with it. I think that we were on board. I was on board for sure with taking the Colts. I really loved that play. The Colts at Pittsburgh. I don't like Pittsburgh at all. I think that it's not even that they're overrated. I just don't think they're a good team. Look what they had to do to beat Miami. Miami had to shut down completely in the second half for them to come back and win that game. Miami had to blitz on a 3rd and 20 with no time left. It made no sense whatsoever. But man, that T.Y. Hilton injury, that is just a tough one. And by the way, the line has not moved at all. So I guess Vegas doesn't see him even as a point. But I got to guess that by the time the kickoff comes, I thought earlier in the week when Servo and I were discussing it, it was a pick 'em, and I'm like, yeah, by the time Howard and I come on Friday night, Colts are going to be favored. I don't know. I think this game could go the other way. I think this goes back to a pick 'em because you're losing a very big wide receiver, and their receiving core, Howard, isn't really good outside of him. There's not a lot there.
You got Zach Pascal. You got Paris Campbell, who's just coming back.
What happened to Funchess? Injury. Whatever happened to him?
He sucks. He sucks.
Gave him a lot of money.
Terrible. It was the worst, horrible signing.
So we're choosing that one, and we're also
no, we're not.
Amongst the other ones. What are the other
ones?
Oh,
yeah. We're looking at that one. We're looking at it.
Okay.
We're looking at it. We're also looking at the Bills minus 9.5 against Washington. Again, I have no problem. Like I don't think a lot of people are going to want to go to the Bills, giving up 9.5 points here after last week. But this is the Redskins, and I'm sorry, but
we'll do it. Let's just take Buffalo and move on.
Just wait, just because listen, there's rain in the forecast here.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. So let's just factor that in. The fact that there's supposed to be rain in the afternoon for the second half of this game. I don't want this turning into a freezing cold slop fest like we saw San Francisco and Washington do, where we were taking Washington getting the 9.5,
right?
Just barely covered.
Yeah, but I'm still okay with taking Buffalo in this one. By the way, in the NFL, this is the lowest total of any game this season.
Yeah.
Well, 36.
I'm telling you, it's 17-3. This is the way this one's going to look.
Probably so.
It's going to be awful. Well, all right, so Bills minus 9.5, possible.
Right. And the line is Colts, 10 right now. Yeah.
Colts minus 1,
right?
Possible.
Mm-hmm. And then what's
Jaguars plus 1.
Yeah.
In London.
I like this
going
one.
Up against Houston.
Yeah.
Just lost J.J. Watt, whose secondary is way banged up.
Jonathan Joseph and the other guy, Roby.
That could be addition by subtraction.
Yeah, this is a really banged up team with very little running game. Their second best receiver gone.
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville plays really good defense. Look, do we know what's going to happen in this game? Yes. It's 2 minutes they're going to be in the game. It's going to be 17-17. We know that. That's what's happening in this game. Jacksonville has the best kicker in the NFL. Do they not? I mean, maybe Tucker is, but the Lambeau's right up there. So in a close game, we got a nice little edge there. This guy, Fairbairn, whatever, he's missing things all over the place, right?
Yes, he is.
I like it. I think we should take Jacksonville.
Well, all right. So now all of a sudden we should have taken the Colts, but now let's take Buffalo. No, let's take Jacksonville.
No, Buffalo and Jacksonville. That's it.
What about taking the Giants? 7 points. On Monday night.
You know what? We've had bad luck the last couple of weeks, just doubling down on our Golden Nugget contest picks. So I think that we should deviate a little bit, and hedge a little bit. Okay. Coming off a really bad week, because listen, with all of these NFL games, between you and I, we're going to do well. We're not going to do poorly. So, that's not to say that we'll do bad in one and bad in the other, but I think that this gives us a really good chance of succeeding in at least one of the two this week, and we do need a bounce back week. So let's go away from the Giants in this one,
Okay.
And let's move on to a couple different picks in the.
So Bills, Colts, Jags. We need 2 out of those 3.
I think
I'm gonna say, I'll tell you right now, I'm gonna vote Bills and Jags. That's how I'm gonna vote.
All right, so I'll vote for that too.
But if you feel
I'm in
about,
agreement. Listen, I did feel strongly about the Colts, but I just don't know. Like, I mean, I feel like when Hilton is not there, I think that's a really big loss. It's a really big loss. He is super important to that team. And when he's in there, I think they're a different offensive team. Now you're telling me they don't have Andrew Luck and T.Y. Hilton. They shouldn't beat anybody in the NFL not having those 2 guys, honestly. Really?
No, I'm not going to take
and the other part of it, too, and it's like I fight back and forth with this, like the Samuels on Pittsburgh, right? Like, what makes him so good? I don't get it.
It's a system.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. Like,
no, I'm just saying
he's had a chance to play the last, but I know he's hurt the last couple weeks, but he's played a little bit. He was on the team last year. He's never done anything.
He was fine last year. What are you talking about? Last year it was when Connor got hurt. Samuels totally stepped up and played well.
I guess I don't remember. I have a short memory.
Their system. I'm telling you, man. It's the system. It's the blocking scheme.
Like Kansas City's.
What's that?
Like Kansas City's blocking scheme.
Well, listen, dude. I would give my left nut to see Andy Reid just commit to one of these friggin' guys.
Yeah, like McCoy, who fumbled every 8 times he catches.
Well,
the
then
ball.
then put him on the friggin' bench and just give the touches to Damian
I agree.
Williams.
They should go back to Damian Williams full time now.
Yeah. Listen,
all right.
I like Alexander Mattison a ton on Minnesota. Do I think Madison would be ripping up chunks of yardage like that, like he's been doing if he wasn't in Kubiak and Dennison's system? I would be reluctant to say that. I think he's good. He's got talent.
The other part is that Cook is beating the heck out of their offensive line is just mashing people, and then they bring Madison in. It's like, at that point, that doesn't take anything away from the offensive line, but it's just true. It's like San Francisco, anybody running behind their offensive line. He didn't have a good game yesterday, Coleman, but in general, whoever's been running there, Jeff Wilson or Mostert or Breida or Coleman, they all run. They all run well. So I don't know. I fought too much in this game with my head, and so we'll leave the Colts out of it this week.
Let's put your mind.
And you know what? The Colts screwed us last week too, by the way. So
hell yeah. All right, so then for the Westgate Super Contest, our picks are as follows: Bears plus 4.5, Raiders minus 2.5, Bills minus 9.5, Vikings plus 2.5, Jaguars plus 1.
Make sure you get up at 6 a.m. for that game there.
That gives us 3 dogs, 2 favorites. I like it.
Let's end with this, just an opinion from you before we go. I know we're a little over on the time. What do you make of the Sunday night game? Just curious.
I think New England wins this one. I think they win it. As far as the spread goes,
3. Yeah. Do you think if eventually New England's going to lose or no?
I think eventually New England will lose. If they were to lose this game, it would mean that this game falls into the under. And it's a Tucker field goal that ends up winning the whole thing, because I think Bill Belichick against Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh scares the bejesus out of me. It does. But when we watch Nick Chubb put up 130 plus yards on the New England defense last week, now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, well, they're going to run hard with Ingram. But Belichick's going to put a spy on Lamar Jackson. He's not going to get beat by this kid. Hollywood Brown's supposed to play in this one here, but I mean, the secondary has been rock solid. So I think
it's a tough call, but I really am. Of all the games this season, I may be most looking forward to this game on Sunday night because of all the things that you're saying with Belichick usually eliminating someone. And then I'll follow up with this question for you. Aaron Rodgers right now is 3-1 to win the NFL MVP, and Russell Wilson is right behind him. If the Ravens and Lamar Jackson beat New England and Lamar Jackson has a great game, is Lamar Jackson go to the top for the MVP in the NFL if they win this game and he has a big game, or not enough?
I don't know, because we've seen some inconsistencies.
He's going to break the all-time rushing record for a quarterback in a single season.
Probably, yeah. I mean, listen, I think that and that's one of the things that you're going to see Bill Belichick take away from.
But again, what if he doesn't? What if he doesn't? I'm asking you, what if he? Listen. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying.
I think Lamar Jackson gets into the conversation. I don't think he moves up to number 1. Let's face it. Aaron Rodgers is everybody's darling, and the fact that this dude's
be hard to
thrown
beat
for over 300 yards and 8 touchdowns in the last 2 games.
Yeah, he's killing it.
Yeah,
he's killing it. I'm just throwing it out there just to say, like, if you're in New Jersey, I saw it on FanDuel. I mean, he's about 5 or 6 to 1. This is probably the last chance to get that if they beat New England. Now, if they don't, Howard, it's a horrible bet because then he's done. There's no chance of him winning the MVP. But me and Joe Pisapia, my co-host on FNTSY, about 6 weeks ago, we didn't make a big bet, but we bet Minshew to win Rookie of the Year. And as soon as we bet it, he lost and then moved back down to like 7-8 to 1. Now he's back to 5 to 1. And we were talking about how this game this week in London, being on the national stage, the one game, if he's going to win the Rookie of the Year, he's got to win this game this week. So I kind of feel that way a little bit about Lamar Jackson, and you're 100% right, because even if they beat New England, if Jackson has a game 2 weeks from now, no touchdowns, 3 picks, fumbles 3 times, it's done. But I'm just looking strictly at odds and where the value is there. And if you believe that they can win this game, then you probably, if you believe the Ravens can win, you probably should take him at 5 to 1 today, because this would be the last shot of you getting.
Did you guys pick the game? What was the pick?
We didn't pick this game.
You didn't pick it at all.
No, I didn't pick this game. I agree with you. It is so hard to bet against New England.
Yeah.
And I feel like we do every week we try to figure out the game that they're going to lose, because I agree with you. I think they're going to lose a game this year. But what game has New England looked bad in all year? One game, right? Buffalo was the only game that they didn't look great in that game. We took New England, by the way, in that game, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Anyway. Yes, that was me. I said take New England. Sorry.
All right.
Cow.
I'm good.
You're good. I'm good too. So I'll tell you what, that's going to do it for us here at the Wager Alarm live stream. Best of luck to y'all in your games, your contests, whatever it is that you're betting. We hope you cash, and we hope you do it with us. So there you go. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. Big thanks to Matt Sells, our producer. We'll catch you next time.